and return to homeopathy and the question of whether the NHS should stop funding it after a group of MPs said that it should today. The House of Commons Science and Technology Committee said there was no evidence that homeopathic remedies have any more effect than as a placebo, so public money should not be used to pay for them. Well, to discuss all of this, we're joined in the studio by Hans Schrauder, the Vice Chair of the Homeopathic Medical Association, and we're also joined from our studio in central London by medical doctor and author Ben Goldacre. Thank you both very much. To you, first of all, Ben Goldacre, because I think that you're at one with the MPs on this. You don't think the NHS should be funding. Why not?
The evidence is very clear. Homeopathy works no better than placebo. It works no better than any sugar pill that hasn't been treated by the magical rituals of homeopaths. And I think it's a very dangerous path to go down, even if the amount of money, 4 million, isn't a huge part of the NHS budget. It's a very dangerous path to go down if you make special concessions for political reasons, just because one group of people particularly want to have one type of treatment which has been shown to be ineffective.
What about the cases, though, that are always cited where somebody had basically given up on conventional medicine, it wasn't helping them? We spoke to somebody earlier who had very advanced cancer and medical treatment wasn't helping her. She turned to homeopathy and she was cured.
Well, I think it's very irresponsible of you to broadcast a case of somebody saying that they were cured of cancer by homeopathy. The fact is...
Well, I mean, that's what she told us has happened to her.
Homeopathy will do nothing for cancer. A very, very, very tiny number of cancer cases each year, which are predicted to be fatal, will turn out not to be. But any suggestion that homeopathy cures cancer is extremely irresponsible. Hans
Schrauder, how do you respond to all of that?
Well, I certainly wouldn't make any claims to be curing cancer with homeopathy. That is a difficult avenue to go down, and we are restricted in what we can claim there. I think it misunderstands what homeopathy is anyway, because with homeopathy we are not specifically treating a given complaint. We are treating the person with that complaint, and it is the person then that heals themselves.
So it is a placebo effect?
No, far from it. It's not a placebo effect.
But how does the person heal themselves? I mean, that does sound like it...
Because we do it all the time.
Variable.
We do it all the time. The simple fact of the matter is that normally we remain healthy because our body maintains us in good health, despite all of the trials and tribulations of life and bugs and bacteria and all the other things that try and attack us all the time. We maintain good health. And it is the vital force that we have that maintains that good health. And therefore, when we become ill, it is because that in some way has broken down. And homeopathy corrects that.
Restores the balance,
yes,
effectively.
Exactly.
The concern by the MPs, though, is there is no scientific evidence to back this up, and they say that any medicine that is approved for use on the NHS now has to undergo rigorous testing. I mean, we regularly hear about cases that are going through NICE. There has to be scientific evidence to back up the various treatments to prove that they work.
That is true, and I think that there is evidence to show that homeopathy works, and there's a great deal of evidence was submitted to the Science and Technology Committee which substantiated the use of homeopathy within the NHS and in general to the public. I think where there is a difficulty and where our critics are able to argue, and that is the insistence that the only evidence that is acceptable is random controlled trials. And the problem with homeopathy is that homeopathy is not a disease-specific drug which can be compared against a placebo. Homeopathy works in a totally different way, and therefore it has to be, its evaluation and testing and validation is also different.
Dr. Ben Goldacre, if it works, what is wrong with the NHS funding it? I mean, for whatever reason, some people think it works for them. It's £4 million a year. In the scheme of things, it's not a huge amount in the NHS budget.
Well, it doesn't work. It works no better than the placebo effect. Now,
but even
that,
if a placebo effect works, the fact is it kind of saves the NHS money, doesn't it? You're giving somebody something that they believe in, and even if it's only working because they believe in it, it's making a difference.
I think there's a real problem with handing out placebos, because to take advantage of the placebo effect with a completely ineffective medicine like homeopathy, you have to lie to your patient. You have to mislead your patient into believing that you're giving them an effective treatment. And that's the kind of very paternalistic attitude that I think doctors used to take 200 years ago when homeopathy was invented.
Are you actually
and
saying, though,
perhaps
that
even 50 years ago? But if you have to mislead your patients, then I would feel very uncomfortable about that as a doctor, and I'm very glad that most doctors would agree with me. I don't think we want to go back to a time when doctors
wouldn't, though, would they? And a lot of people say that it does work. I mean, for you to be asserting that doctors are effectively lying to their patients, that's a pretty strong thing to say.
You said what would be wrong with taking advantage of the placebo effect, and to do that you would have to lie to patients. You'd have to tell them that you were giving them a treatment that was effective when actually you're not. And I think that's the real problem with handing out homeopathy on the NHS, is that you are misleading people. And I think you can't get into a situation where doctors as individuals are misleading their patients by telling them incorrectly that they're giving them an effective treatment, where the NHS is misleading people collectively by implying that these are effective treatments, but also the very shameful state of affairs where the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Authority are allowing people who sell homeopathic pills, such as Boots, to make what appear to be claims that they can treat specific conditions. I think that's very problematic, because I want that sort of thing to be regulated tightly.
Okay, well, let's just get a final thought from Hans Schrauder then.
Well, I think to knock the placebo argument on its head, I point to the fact that it has been demonstrated, scientifically validated and peer-reviewed, that homeopathy treats animals. It treats small babies.
The placebo effect is very good in animals and in children, actually. There are lots of studies showing that the placebo effect is very good in animals and children.
The fact is, animals do not know they're being treated. They do not. They haven't got a clue that they are being given homeopathic remedies.
Both animals and children do very well.
Sorry, Ben Goldacre, we can't hear Hans Schrauder while you're talking over him. Sorry.
When you see animals responding positively to their homeopathic treatment, it does mean that they're responding to something more than the placebo effect, because they're totally unaware of the fact they're receiving treatment.
And just very quickly on the point that Dr. Ben Goldacre was making about misleading patients.
Well, I think you're only misleading patients if you believe that homeopathic remedies are placebos, and we earnestly believe they are not. They are active medicines.
All right. I mean,
and we see them working, so we know they're working.
Okay, it's been good to debate with the two of you, but for now, thank you very much, Hans Schrauder and also Dr. Ben Goldacre. Thank you.
Thank you.